April 23rd, 1945, Northern Germany. A British Sherman tank rumbles down a muddy country road. Inside, Lieutenant Tommy Hargreaves scans the landscape through his binoculars. The war in Europe is nearly over, but danger still lurks everywhere. Then, something impossible happens. A teenage girl appears in the middle of the road, running straight toward 30 tons of moving steel. She's wearing an oversized jacket, arms spread wide, screaming at the top of her lungs. "Stop! Please stop! Children inside!" Tommy's heart stops. "Driver, brake!" The tank skids to a halt just feet from where she stands. The girl doesn't move. She's shaking, tears streaming down her face, but she doesn't back down. "Please," she says in broken English. "Jewish children, 200. Hidden in the barn, 6 months. Please don't shoot." Tommy climbs down from the tank. Behind the girl, a barn door creaks open. Dozens of small, terrified faces peer out from the darkness. His gunner whispers over the radio, "Sir?" She's German. Tommy stares at the girl, then at the barn full of children who should be dead according to everything the regime had planned. In this moment, he realizes he's not looking at an enemy. He's looking at someone who's been fighting the same evil they came here to defeat. "What's your name?" he asks gently. "Hanna," she whispers. "Hanna Klein. I am 17, and I have been protecting them since October. If you want to know how this impossible story ends, stay until the end. What happens next will restore your faith in humanity." Hanna Klein comes from a family connected to the local authorities. Her father worked in the regional administration. She should have been safe, protected, oblivious to what was happening. But Hanna wasn't like other teenagers. She tells Tommy and his crew what happened 6 months earlier. Her father had received a transport list, 200 Jewish children scheduled for deportation. Hanna knew what that meant. She'd heard the whispered rumors, seen the trains. So she did something extraordinary. She stole her father's official stamp. She forged documents claiming the children had typhus and needed quarantine. Then she hid them in this abandoned barn on the edge of town. For 6 months, she kept them alive. "How?" Tommy asks, still processing what he's hearing. "I wore this jacket," Hanna says, touching the oversized garment, "so the party officials wouldn't question me. Every week I took food from the community kitchens, sometimes just potato scraps, but it was enough." One of the soldiers points out the obvious danger. "You could have been caught at any moment." Hanna nods. "Yes, every day I thought it would be the last. But every morning the children would wake up, and I had to make sure there would be food." A small child emerges from the barn, clinging to Hanna's leg. The little boy hasn't spoken since they found him. Tommy makes a decision that could end his military career. "Radio battalion. Tell them we need medical support and supplies immediately. And tell them we have a special situation that requires discretion." His crew exchanges glances. They understand. This girl just became their responsibility. "What about her, sir?" the gunner asks. She's under our protection," Tommy says firmly. "That's an order."
Within hours, medical teams arrive. The children pour out of the barn, blinking in sunlight they haven't seen in months. They range from 4 to 14 years old, thin, pale, but alive. Every single one reaches out to touch Hanna as they pass, as if to make sure she's real. A British nurse begins examining the children and starts crying. "Not a single case of lice," she tells Tommy. "Someone's been washing their clothes regularly." Tommy watches Hanna move among the children, distributing biscuits with the same calm courage she showed facing down the tank. A little girl with blonde braids pulls on his sleeve. "Hanna told us stories every night. She said good people would come and save us. You came." "What's your name?" Tommy asks. "Ruth," the girl says. "Hanna is our mother now." The word hits Tommy like a physical blow. Mother. To 200 Jewish children, this German teenager became everything. That afternoon, a staff car arrives. An intelligence officer storms out, waving papers. That girl needs to be detained immediately. She's the daughter of a party official, wearing that jacket. She could be a collaborator. Tommy steps between the officer and Hanna. Sir, with respect, she just saved 200 lives. If you want to arrest her, you'll need to go through us first. His entire crew stands behind him, creating a wall. The officer looks at the children, at Hanna ladling soup with trembling hands, at the barn that should have been empty. Something shifts in his expression. He tears the detention order in half. Temporary protective custody, under your personal guarantee, Lieutenant. Gladly, sir, Tommy says. That night, the children sleep in military trucks under real blankets for the first time in months. Hanna refuses to leave them. She sits on a tailgate, wrapped in an oversized British coat, staring at the stars. Tommy brings her tea. She takes it with both hands, breathing in the steam. They'll send me away tomorrow, she says quietly. I'm still what I am. You're someone who stood in front of my tank, Tommy replies. That makes you one of the bravest people I've ever met. Hanna's laugh is sad. I was so afraid you wouldn't stop. I almost didn't. Then I saw your face. You reminded me of my sister protecting our dog during the air raids. Same look, terrified but determined. A small boy climbs into Hanna's lap and falls asleep immediately. She strokes his hair, automatic and gentle. How did you keep going? Tommy asks. For 6 months? Hanna is quiet for a long moment. I told them every night that good people still existed, that kindness would win. I had to make it true, or those words would have been lies. Tommy writes in his diary that night, Today, a 17-year-old girl taught us what real courage looks like. She protected 200 children who were marked for death. We thought we were the liberators. Turns out we still had lessons to learn about being human. Hanna writes on Red Cross notepaper, They gave me tea with sugar today. Real sugar. I cried. The lieutenant says I'm safe now. I don't know what safe feels like yet.
1985, a community center in Salford, England. The banner reads, Welcome home, Mutti Hanna, 40 years reunion. Tommy Hargraves, now 64, stands at the entrance with tears already in his eyes. Through the door come 200 middle-aged adults, some with gray hair, many with grandchildren. They've traveled from Israel, America, Australia, and across Britain. They've come for her. Hanna Klein, now Hanna Cohen after marrying one of the children she saved in 1950, steps off the airport coach. She's supported by Ruth, the little girl with braids, who's now a pediatrician in Haifa. The room erupts. 200 voices shout, Muji, at once. These grown doctors, teachers, artists, and grandparents rush forward, not to shake her hand, but to kneel, to honor the 17-year-old girl who became their entire world in that barn. Tommy embraces her first. She's still tiny in his arms. You kept your promise. Good. 1. Hanna can't speak. She can only touch face after face, remembering each as a frightened child, and seeing who they became because she refused to move out of the way of that tank. Ruth places a crown of white roses on Hanna's silver hair. You told us stories so we wouldn't be afraid of the dark. Tonight, we're bringing the light back to you. The pianist plays several songs, hymns, lullabies, traditional melodies. There isn't a dry eye in the room. 200 lives, thousands of descendants, all because one teenager decided children deserved to grow up. 1 year after the reunion, they all gather again. The barn has been restored as a memorial called Hanna's Haven. The children, now grandparents themselves, fill every corner. Hanna walks to the exact spot where she once faced the tank. She places a wooden box on the ground and opens it. Inside are 200 hand-painted porcelain roses, one from each survivor, collected over 40 years. She arranges them in a perfect circle. Then she turns to the crowd and speaks. "I was 17 and terrified. You were smaller and more terrified. Together, we proved that love can be louder than the engines of hatred." Tommy, his voice thick with emotion, adds, "She stood in front of my tank and gave me a choice, to be just a soldier following orders, or to be a human being. She made that choice easy." Ruth steps forward and places one final real white rose on top of the porcelain ones. "This one is for the girl who forgot to save herself because she was too busy saving us." Hanna Klein lived to be 91 years old. She never returned to Germany. She didn't need to. 200 families called her Mutti, and that was home enough. She never considered herself a hero. When asked about it in interviews, she would always say the same thing: "I was just a girl who couldn't look away." But those 200 children and the thousands of descendants who exist because of her courage, they knew differently. Some heroes wear military uniforms. Some wear borrowed coats and stand in front of tanks with nothing but the belief that children deserved to grow up. Hanna Klein was 17 when she decided that darkness wouldn't have the last word. And because one teenager refused to move, an entire forest of family trees got to grow. If this story moved you, share it. The world needs reminders that courage sometimes looks like an ordinary person doing extraordinary things when no one is watching.